Okay guys, so I've woken up now. It's time to finish this chocolate cake. So I promised I'd do it today, and I'd already started to get all of the ingredients ready. So this recipe was sent in by the lovely Tommy Alexander, who any of you will know, who follows our page, and he's also got a lovely group which posts amazing photographs and artwork. So anyway, Rick, I think it's his brother, Rick, has created a page and an area where all of his extended family, who've obviously got German connections, can post all their family recipes, because he wants to create a recipe book. And so today I'm actually making Aunt Alma KREISSLER's rich sour cream chocolate cake. That sounds absolutely delicious. Now, I'm going to follow the recipe as exactly as I can. There's 1 teaspoonful of something called butter flavouring. I have no idea what that is, but it sounds like it does contain E numbers. However, there is a frosting to go on top of it, and I will be making the frosting. I've already made the base of it, which is just cooling down, and it's the most bizarre recipe I have ever seen for any kind of a frosting. So, you know, please feel free to tell me if I'm wrong and that, you know, your granny makes one just like this. But basically the frosting, the whipped butter frosting, it's a cup of skimmed milk and 1/3 of a cup of flour. And what I did was I put that into like a mason jar or a jam jar with a lid and shook it up. I'm following the recipe exactly. Shook it up. And then poured that into a pan. Now, I didn't do the double boiler thing, but that's fine because I know how to make a roux because I'm a chef. But actually the way he says it is you pour the milk and flour mixture into the top of a double boiler like a bain-marie through a wire sieve, making sure that all the lumps are dissolved. But if you know how to make that kind of a roux sauce, you'll know that you can get the lumps out without doing that. So basically I've now got a very thick stodgy paste, which is milk and flour, and that's going to go cold, and then that is going to be whipped up with butter, granulated sugar, that's a weird one, salt, vanilla and the butter flavouring. Very strange frosting, but we'll see what it's like. Perhaps it's just a cultural thing. Vanilla essence, yeah, we've got all that. Salt, granulated sugar. See, we would always use in a frosting normally icing sugar, because you don't have the sugar to dissolve into your mixture. The icing sugar is more of a powder, and so it gives you the flavour and a smoother texture, but we'll see how that goes. So let's get cracking. This is the actual recipe that he's given me. So we're going to cream together. I'm reading it off my old phone, so just bear with me because I haven't done this recipe before. Let's hope we don't get interrupted by, oh, the workmen are here. That's fine, they don't need to come in here. Just bear with me a second. But you can go out now. Go on, out you go. I'll just shut the door. I'm not filming the washing basket, am I? No, I can see myself. Thank you. So here we go. We have got a cup of softened butter, which is here, and it's already softened. Jean-Yves, il est là, soit là ou soit de l'autre côté. Ça va? Okay, so we've got 1 cup of softened butter. Well, it's just been sat in here for a while, but it should be fine. So I'm going to pop that in there, and into that goes 2 cups of sugar. It doesn't say what type, I've just used granulated sugar. And as with any cake mixture, what we want to do is we want to whisk that up until it's kind of more or less white. And we need a cup of sour cream. Just bear with me 1 second, people. One cup of blended together. Just bear with me. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because we're used to, obviously, I don't know about you, but there's a lot more sugar in, obviously, in the start of this recipe with the butter, so you don't get that same kind of whipped. It's white, that's fine, it's white. Okay, so then we've got 2 eggs which are going in there. Beating the eggs and the sour cream. So we're going to do that, and then I'm just going to get my spatula. Don't you just love a good chocolate cake? And especially one that's a little bit different. I love trying new things. Unless it's Andriette sausage, Teresa, if you're watching, or duck's gizzards. But apart from that, I just love trying new recipes. So let's try this. It's fun because if there's any more sort of cake recipes or any other interesting recipes, I'd love to give them a try, Rick, because it's fun, isn't it? Trying other people's. And, you know, the best thing to do is not be frightened of making mistakes. You know, I've made some bits and pieces today, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to do those on camera because I was rushing around, and I ended up scorching the tops of my apricots, and I thought, oh God, I'm not going to put that one on, they'll think it's useless. But I was probably not in a great place this morning. However, sometimes you just have to fess up when you make a mistake, because we're none of us perfect. Right, we're going to give that a whiz up. Oh, looks divine. Sour cream and eggs and butter and sugar. Oh, yes. Now, I'm not going to over whip that because I think that usually... Now, sift the dry ingredients 3 times. I'm actually going to put my bit of vanilla flavouring in there. Ooh, that's a bit heavy. And what we also need is some boiling water. I put my vanilla in a bit early. Right, now we're going to sieve this 3 times, okay? Now the purpose of this is twofold. When you're sieving something, obviously it's to get rid of the lumps. But secondly, and more importantly, it's to aerate your mixture. You can use it any type of sieve. I've just got a proper chef's sieve, which is, we use this for all sorts of things. We even use this for purees of vegetables and things, this one. But I'm just going to push that through because I can already feel quite a few lumps, which is great that if we're sieving it 3 times, there's absolutely going to be no lumps in it. Yeah, it's fun. And you know, we're not all perfect. I've watched some amazing videos online, and I look at them and I go, oh my God, that's so intimidating. The people are all absolutely amazing. They don't do anything wrong. Their hair's perfectly out of place. They don't drop the spoon. They don't spill anything down the side of the bowl, you know. And I think it's quite intimidating because if you can't live up to that, and some people are just not as adept as others, but the result is the same, and that's what matters. If we have a good result at the end of it, that's all. And if you have fun doing it, because you know, when you're cooking, it shouldn't be about a chore. It should be fun to do it. So you can see I've got quite a few hard, nasty little lumps in there. So I'm just going to tip those out. and then we're going to go again. And it's like anything that you do in the kitchen. Preparation is the key to success, because if you don't prepare all your ingredients in advance and you don't get everything correct, you're more likely to, you know, have a less impressive result. So we're just going to put this through onto my silicone mat, and then the third one will go onto the paper, so that we can just literally drop that into the cake. So you would say to yourself, God, this all looks a bit of a pain, doing it 3 times. But look, there's yet more little tiny lumps. So I'm just going to get rid of those. And hopefully, the 3rd time of sieving it, it will go onto directly onto my paper to go into the cake mixture. So let's just make sure that's all come off. Okay, silicone mat into the sink. Just let's put that there. Otherwise, right. And then we're just going to sieve that directly onto the paper. And believe it or not, the 3rd time there are still some little granules. So that's clearly why we need to sieve it 3 times. That looks great. So bring all those sides to the middle. Little tip, always scrunch one end up, because if you turn around or move and it starts to tip, you'll lose some of it. So I'm going to actually incorporate this how I would do it, which is in separate stages. I'm just going to check that I'm on the right way. It's when you've never made a recipe before, it's always better to check what you're doing is correct. Add to the creamed mixture. The batter will be stiff. Then we're going to add boiling water into that, which is quite a different type of mixture. I think that's to create steam inside the cake as well, which creates internal moisture. Okay, so it's a good job I steam cleaned my mixer yesterday, because now it's just bang down your sides of your bowl, and you can just, yeah, it's a lovely batter, feels nice. It's quite stiff, as the recipe says, because obviously at the moment we haven't got the majority of our liquid in there. And I'm just going to push all those ingredients back into my bowl and put the K-beater back in. Remember, you don't want to use a whisk for this. You need to put the K-beater or whatever the beater is for your type of food processor. I'm sure you can use a hand mixer, but obviously it's like anything, it's a lot quicker and less laboured. In Grandma KREISSLER's day, I'm sure they would have used a wooden spoon and done it all by hand. So just bear with me while I get the, this is my old phone, don't panic. Johnny Dilly had a fit this afternoon. He said, your kitchen, you're just warming your phone, isn't it? I said, don't panic, I'm keeping this for recipes. So, we need a cup and a half, don't we? Cup of boiling water. 1 cup of boiling water. The baking soda's already in there, so let's just grab that. Here we go. Right, where is my little measurer? What have I done with my little measurer? Here it is. So we just want 1 cup of boiling water. Doesn't matter, it's just the measure that had the sour cream in, so that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to pour that in. Let's give it a whirl. Okay, so very slowly, the absolute slowest it can go. It's looking good, folks, but it's a bit odd. I'm just not used to seeing it, something like this. It's very liquid. Turn that up gently. Amazing. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my spatula for the final minute of mixing, and I'm just going to ease down all those ingredients that are left on the side of the bowl, because inevitably you get that. So you want to get all of the mixture right into the bottom. Now I have a slight issue with the cake tin size. It's a bit like bed sheets. Don't ask me about bed sheets. So that's another story. Who started this? It must have been me. So in the recipe it says 9 by 13 cake tin. Stay in. And mine is nowhere near 9 nor 13, but it's what I have. And it's 2 cake tins. Now it doesn't say in the recipe fill up to halfway or how much it rises. And I presume that in America they have, because everything's bigger, they have big, you know, big cakes that they would cut into 2 or 3 and put the frosting inside and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this batter into, if I can, into 2 cake mixes. So that, because it's got baking soda in it, I'm hoping it's going to rise a little bit. It will be quite compact because I'm just looking at the actual batter, and it is quite a compact, it's going to be quite a gooey cake. It's not going to be like what we would have as a Victoria sponge or a coffee and walnut cake, you know, that kind of thing. It's not going to be spongy and airy. And he did say that he likes it better when it's at least a day old. So I think it's the sort of cake that we're going to cook, we're going to take out, and then we're going to film it, cling film it for tomorrow, and then we're going to maybe ice it tomorrow. That's just what perhaps I'm wondering whether that's a good idea, because it sounds like it needs to kind of mature. It's a sour cream cake as well. Okay, so I think that I'm pretty happy with this. So I'm just literally going to take as much mixture off my K-beater as I can. There's no substitute for fingers. Keep your hands clean in the kitchen and you should be able to use them. Fingers were made before forks and everything else. you shouldn't clearly lick them. I'm sure some of you out there are saying, oh, when I was a kid we used to do this, do that. Obviously, you know, in a professional capacity, I'm not advising that you lick. You can lick the bowl afterwards if there's any left, but a good chef wouldn't have anything left in the bowl, let me tell you. So just bear with me 1 second, because I've now got sticky chocolatey fingers. The oven is on, and let me just do that. Okay, so that's relatively clean. And I need this. So what we're going to do now is, I have got my tins already greased. Oh my god, I'm getting slightly more like Delia, and the phone hasn't fallen over, neither have I filmed my washing basket, so it's all going well today, isn't it? Right, here we go. So let's just move the recipe away, and then I'll go over it with you in a second. Can obviously, the great thing about a video is that you can actually wind it back. Yeah, this is a tricky one. Got quite a lot of volume of mixture. Well, we're just gonna do our best, everyone, okay? Because normally the size of the tin does affect the cake, most definitely. That is for sure. It can affect how it rises. It can affect where it rises in terms of the outside, the inside. It can affect the taste and consistency of the cake, because if the tin is too big and you've not got enough mixture in it, it dries out very quickly. So all of those things are affected by cake tins, and there's no such thing as a standard, to be fair. I don't know about you, but every time I seem to buy one, they seem to be a different size. Now that's just a little bit less well beaten. The thing I don't like about Kenwood, I wonder if anybody from Kenwood's watching. The thing I don't like, my granny had one for years. I have had one for years, but the one thing that annoys me is that you never get to the bottom of the bowl. You have to do what you see me do, is try and kind of, and you don't try that at home unless you know what you're doing, because the machine's going round fast. You've got to try and sort of almost lift it up and just get that beater to actually grab the stuff that's in the bottom of the bowl. And there's always a little bit that's not mixed in the middle. I've never come across a food mixer that works 100% correctly. I did used to like the KitchenAid that we used in the Choiseul. We used to have 2 KitchenAids, and they were great for doing things like meringues. They had a great whisk and the right shaped bowl. But the Kenwood is so much more of an institution for us. I don't know about anybody who's watching. Right, that looks about equally balanced. What you can also do, to be far more technical, but I can do it by eye because I've been doing it long enough, is that you would obviously weigh the cake mix. Stick the cake mix onto your scale, weigh it, and then divide it exactly in 2. And that way you know that you've actually got the right amount of cake mixture in each of your pots. So hello, we've got quite a few people online today. Thank goodness I haven't been doing the washing basket. Let me just turn that around. Oh, there's lots of you. Can I lick the spoon? Jane, Christine, Trees. Yeah, so Trees, I used to work with a chef. Well, yeah, okay, we'll call it a guy. And he worked in a labo kitchen where everything was calculated by weight. Every portion was weighed, every cake was weighed, all the mixture was weighed. So if you had an entree of a carrot and cabbage coleslaw for 100 people, he would say, right, 20 grams of that, 20 grams of that. You want 2 kilos, 6 of that, and then he would mix it together. Then he would weigh it per portion. That's how he was taught to do it in that environment. I can't bear working like that. You know, I work by eye a lot of the time. I don't even weigh things. I'm a very sort of instinctive cook. As a chef and a pastry chef, you have to be very exact, because if you're not exact, you can make some howlers. But in terms of savoury stuff, I just tend to be one of these, you know, a little pinch of this, a little pinch of that. So that's the chocolate cake, the sour cream heavy chocolate cake. It looks as if it's going to be amazing. And I'm going to get that into the oven. Now, I'll quickly run through the recipe for you. And anybody who wants it written, I can forward it to you, or you can have a look on the page. So this is, oh, where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? It's Aunt Alma KREISSLER's chocolate cake. Hang on, come back. And we want to say a massive thank you to Tommy and Rick for this, because this is brilliant that we've actually tried. He sent a very nice message today. I completely understand your frustrations and what's going on in the world. All that lockdown time basically wasted by young people. Rick told me yesterday he'd been reading the account of the 1912 Spanish flu epidemic, and people actually acted in the same manner around the world because of the war ending. There were big parades and celebrations. 3 days later, the numbers spiked. So please, let's pray that doesn't happen this time. But thank you, Rick and Tommy, for the recipe. And it is as follows. Aunt Alma KREISSLER's rich sour cream chocolate cake. You need 1 cup of butter, softened, 2 cups of sugar, and you're going to beat that together on your Kenwood or in your machine. Then into that, you're going to add in a cup of sour cream and 2 eggs. Give that a good beating up. And your dry ingredients, which you need to put into your sieve and sieve 3 times. You need half a cup of cocoa, half a teaspoonful of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 2.5 cups of flour, 1 cup of boiling water, and a teaspoon of vanilla. So all my dry ingredients, the salt, the baking soda, the flour and the cocoa, were there in my sieve waiting. And then you basically saw what I did. I mixed that up quite a long time. Then I added the boiling water, and then that gave you a nice batter. And this, it's not runny, it's stiff, but it's a sort of a runny mixture. I don't want to tip it up because no mate will fall on the floor. So yeah, and you cook that at 350 for 30 to 35 minutes, testing it in the usual way with either, you know, a sharp point of a sharp knife, or, you know, I use a kebab stick, you know, metal kebab pick. Let the cake cool completely before frosting. Now the frosting recipe, I'm going to give it to you now, and if you want to make it, we can make it tomorrow. A cup of skim milk and 1/3 cup of flour. And what I did was, I literally put it into a jar, a mason jar, and I just shook it up and down, up and down, up and down. Put that into a pan and cooked the roux out. Now, it doesn't say that in here, but it's very, very important that you cook out a roux. You've got flour and milk in there, which is weird for a topping on a cake, but hey, I'm willing to go with it. If it's a good topping, oh my God, we'll forget the cake, we'll just eat the topping. So you basically cooking out that roux, you can sieve it or do it in a bain-marie, but frankly, you've just got to have a good wooden spoon, a strong arm, and keep turning it figure of 8, or, you know, keep stirring it all the time, and it'll very quickly, within about 40 seconds, start to thicken, and you will literally beat through that roux, keeping it as hot as possible without scorching it, and just really batter it backwards and forwards till you've got no lumps. And that is what I made earlier. Oh, I feel like blue pizza. Oh, I feel like blue pizza. So here is the roux. Okay. So it's a bit like a solid blob of farinous lump at the moment. But that is going to be the basis for our topping. And so in the topping, you have, that's cold now, so I could theoretically make it, but I haven't got a bowl for it yet. So we'll do that tomorrow when we ice the cake. So this is for the actual frosting. So you've done your roux, you've popped it, and you've cooled it down. It says let it cool to room temperature, but that's fine. When you're ready, you can take it out. It can stay with some film on there because it's very cool in here. It can stay out overnight. And then you're going to beat together your butter, sugar and salt and the vanilla and everything else. That's what's going to go on our bowl. And basically just whip it up. Butter, sugar, salt, add the cool milk and flour, and then mix. You basically beat that for 10 minutes on the machine. That's a very long time. So you're really almost, you're beating that to kind of probably to double it in size. It doesn't say, but the longer you beat it, the fluffier it gets. Sounds delicious already. And then you can spread that either in between or on or around, or we'll see what the cakes come out like. So you've got your milk and flour in the roux, then you've got 3/4 cup of salted butter, 1 1/4 cups of granulated sugar, half a teaspoonful of salt, a teaspoonful of vanilla, and a teaspoonful of butter flavouring if you're watching this in America. Do not use oleo or Crisco. I presume that means margarine. So it must be butter. No buts, it must be butter. And that's to do with the fact that all fats are created to melt and to react at different temperatures. And if you use a margarine, margarine is like the foulest thing on the planet. It's basically like the molecular composition of plastic. So I wouldn't use it in any recipe. I just automatically use butter in everything. But you can substitute some things, but in this recipe I've tried to stick exactly to it. And you would use do you remember we showed you, I did show you the vanilla flavouring, but that was when I was filming the washing basket. So that's the powdered up vanilla pods that I keep. So for those of you who haven't seen it, this is the Vanille Bourbon. So these are my vanilla pods that I keep, and these are new. They haven't been used yet. A couple of them have, but anyway, keep those back in there. Then what I do with them is there's one or two things I can do with them. When I've got a few like that, I will put them into a bottle of rum, and I use that for all sorts of things in the kitchen, not for drinking, but for actually cooking with rum barbers and for crepes. I actually put rum and melted butter in my crepe recipes, if anybody wants that. So you have that little tinge of only just 5 minutes, just like, I don't know, a tablespoon. Again, I just glug it in. But you can preserve the vanilla pods in the rum, and that's brilliant. First of all, I put them into the sugar, and then I'll show you what I've done with this one. I buy usually 10 kilos of sugar, and you'll see, for those of you who missed it last time, that is my sugar with all my vanilla pods in there. So all the time, that smells absolutely divine. All the time, if you want a recipe with sugar in, you can just use your vanilla sugar, which gives you an extra boost. When they're very dry, then I would take them out of the sugar, because they can come out anytime, out of the sugar, and put them in this is an actual coffee blender from Lidl, 14 quid or something. And basically you would put them in there and blitz them till they're a powder. I don't use it for coffee, I use it for things like that. So you plug that in, you pop your vanilla pods in, give them a whiz up, and then you pop them into some glucose. And you can then just store them in a bottle like that, and that just gives you all the beans around the outside of there. You can see you can actually use a paste of olive oil as well. I'll just see if I can pour a little bit in there, you'll see. So it's very much the consistency of glucose, slightly watered down glucose, and a little bit of olive oil in there. And basically that's what a lot of the big, for example, Pierre Hermé, who is one of the best pastry chefs in France, they make macarons by the million. the young chef who runs his operation globally in Colmar stays here with us and sometimes watches. So hello Van, sorry if you're watching. And was explaining to me that that's exactly what they do, because they can monitor the amount of vanilla much easier when they're using a vanilla paste. And so it would be far too expensive to use the pure vanilla pod and just use it once. So they keep it going and then they blitz that and make it last that much longer. And it can last 5-6 times longer than a normal vanilla pod by putting it into a concentration of oil, which is what they do. And then they can precision weigh everything that goes in. Because every macaron has to taste the same, whether it's in Paris or Tokyo or New York, wherever. That's quite interesting to talk to him. So that's it, folks. So we're going to make the frosting tomorrow because we need to get the cakes in the oven. And I'm going to have a cup of tea and maybe a little slice of my almond ground rice tart. But I'm not showing you because it's rubbish. No, it's okay. It's just I burnt the edges of the tart. You see, you've got to tell people when you fess up, when you make a mistake, haven't you? Because we're not all perfect. We're really not all perfect. And when you've got a dog and a man and they're coming in and out all the time and you lose the concentration, it's just lethal. I love to be on my own in my kitchen with you, of course. So the roux going to be filmed with some cling film, and I'm going to obviously now clean up this holy dust bowl of cocoa. That's the only drawback with chocolate cake, you always get cocoa. And I'm going to put these babies in the oven and we'll see what comes out. I am dying to eat a piece of this. So this could be the most successful kitchen broadcast yet. You do realise this because the camera hasn't fallen over. I haven't filmed my washing basket, and I think you can see me in the thing. I can see the new camera I've got. It's like a much bigger thing with 3 lenses on it. It's very weird. I hope there's one that removes double chins and lines. Anyway, we'll catch up later, and tonight it will be Escape to the Chateau. Bye, everybody. Oh, loads of After Work Bumble. Don't want my plastic in my cake. Don't want plastic in my cake, no. Marge, yeah, spreadable, yum, 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 yum. Lovely. Have you converted the weights? Missed the beginning. Oh, Teresa, okay, bear with me. No, I haven't converted the weights because I have a cup measure. But Rick is going to convert them. I have one of these. Do you not have one of these? Oh dear. You can get it on the internet, but Rick said he'll send it to me. You missed the beginning. Okay, let's just see if it's still here. And Tommy will send it to you, no problem. I'm sure he will send it to you with all the method and everything. And Alma Kreisler's rich sour cream chocolate cake. 1 cup of butter, 2 cups of sugar, 2 eggs, 1 cup of sour cream, half a cup of cocoa, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoonfuls of baking soda, not powder, bicarbonate of soda, 2.5 cups of flour. I actually think I've only put 1 teaspoon of baking soda in there. But never mind, I'm not going to worry about that. 1 cup of boiling water and a teaspoonful of vanilla. Catch you later. Questions to me or Tommy. Bye.